The overwhelmingly negative response to the clearly wokeified God of War Laufey has continued to roll in and mount on social media for the last couple of days since the game's announcement. But what is even more interesting than the near universally negative reception is the fact that the normally ever so spirited progressive counter-argument and defense of a game that is so obviously catering to their preferences has been remarkably limp-wristed this time around. Downright pathetic, in fact. So, God of War Laufey is a spin-off of the God of War series, replacing Kratos with a woman. And this is billeted as a simultaneous kind of story, which will inevitably end in the attempted replacement of Kratos, as we've seen in virtually all of the cases where a random female character has appeared alongside the male. The trailer was so negatively received that even the original creator of God of War commented on it very, very negatively, and as a very progressive individual as well, he has ever since been desperately backpedaling on social media. For example, I think diversity of characters in games is wonderful and important, and I love the biz now making games where women can be and can look like so much more than damsels and eye candy. Or, for example here, my response to God of War has zero to do with culture wars. I remain the most progressive guy you know, and proudly so. Zero issues with a woman starring in a game of God of War game, or a woman directing one. My issue is specific to the trailer shown yesterday, thanks. As so far, the primary outrage for the progressive has been directed inwards towards their own people. So the reasons for this are quite interesting. The game itself was written by Alana Pierce, a rather famously devious individual within games development. And it was written apparently some 6 years ago, and it tells. It is obvious when you look at it. This is a game that was written, designed, and produced for a very different audience on a very different internet. Once upon a time, this would simply just have been part and parcel of a very progressive game sphere. But now, over half a decade later, progressive and outright woke games design like these are very, very unpopular, to the point where, amusingly, one of the primary progressive defenses of Laufey are things like this. He's calling this woman ugly. I repeat, he's calling this woman ugly? No. That's the thing. Nobody is calling this woman ugly because this is not Laufey. This is the voice actress. What the entire opposition has been pointing out is that Laufey looks nothing like the voice actress. And the very idea that this is a defense demonstrates either complete willful lack of understanding of what's going on, or pretending that they don't get it. Pretending to be stupid, as this, unless you know nothing about what you're talking about, you've seen none of the trailers, none of the discourse, none of the screenshots, this is simply just malicious ignorance. And it has been a lot of it too. I don't know why there's so much hate for God of War Laufey's when it's basically just spending 40 plus hours with her killing monsters and gods. Again, this is not Laufey in game. If you had any doubts about this spiritually divorced failed entrepreneur racist incel grift, this is who he's complaining about, responding to Grums here. And the best part here is, look at these pictures and look at the picture that Grums himself has posted. This person sees this picture, the reason why everyone, including the creator, who now professes to be a progressive, is complaining about, then post pictures of the voice actress looking nothing like the picture in defense. This is pathetic. This is beyond pathetic, as if the progressives themselves too have given up on the argument that somehow ugly women are beautiful, and have instead simply started lying blatantly and obviously in order to, I presume, influence the narrative. As this really is all that was required here. Okay. The God of War spin-off with a female character is suspect in this day and age, particularly something written by Alana Pierce 6 years ago. It bears the stink of trying to replace Kratos, but that is pure speculation. Had you, however, released this game not like this, but with this, the backlash would almost certainly have disappeared immediately. In fact, there probably wouldn't even have been any backlash whatsoever. In that case, all we'd really be arguing about is what level of beautification you find personally most appealing or attractive. This is all anyone is actually asking for. An attractive female character. And we even saw a beautiful example of this just the other day with another announcement trailer for Ace Combat 8. Suddenly, the entire internet is in uproar of a side character shown for like 3 seconds in total. Simply because she's cute. That's all you require. And this then also comes on, of course, with the usual narrative. If you think the problem with modern games is having a female protagonist, you generally need to seek professional help. But at the same time, if all the criticism are going to be dismissed as misogyny, there's no room for discussion, there will only be toxic positivity. That's the thing. This isn't misogyny, this is a genuine complaint. It is absolutely categorically correct to criticize the fact that we could have this and we are given this. Nothing wrong with it. Even if, as I mentioned previously, you assume this is the best God of War game ever produced, it would unquestionably be better if Laufey looked like this. As a fundamental part of understanding video games, narrative structure, and storytelling is that you have a limited amount of time to endear characters to the person who is reading or watching or playing the game. Even more so in an interactive medium where people just want to get on with the story and the God of Warring. In this very brief moment, you need to sell your character and make the player care for them. By far the easiest way to do that is to make them cute, attractive, conventionally so. This has been set in stone wisdom for about as long as entertainment has existed, and yet still we continue on with the tired old idiotic trope that this is somehow a complaint about women in games, that the people complaining about ugly female characters are the problem. Or even the most disingenuous of all, pretending as if they're somehow helping us. Oh, listen, you're gonna miss out on some really fantastic video games if you dislike the uglification of female characters. And hey, the Tomb Raider one doesn't even look that bad. She needs bigger tits and the face could use a little bit of work, but the rest, not bad at all. Laufey, however, is not good. And Ciri isn't terrible, but you can again tell, and the entire point is here, this is a video game. You are not bound by the constraints of reality at any point. You can make Ciri look as beautiful as you want to, and choosing not to is in and of itself as well a deliberate choice. And no, you wouldn't, Clown. What the fuck is with your pathetic ass males and hating women? This continues as well, just accusation that people just hate women, and that's the only reason why they're complaining about this. And this is particularly hilarious in video gaming, as I can recall a time when people would prefer prefer to play with female characters. Not only the introduction of characters like iconic Lara Croft in Tomb Raiders, for example, but there was an entire time when we were basically oversaturated with hot female characters to the point where that became the slop content, because we came to the point of realization that, okay, if there's a drop-dead gorgeous chick on the cover, that probably means that the game itself is terrible, simply because they're trying to sell it to you as eye candy instead. That became a sign of a bad game. And even then, even after that period, remember the primary reason why anybody played the Night Elves in World of Warcraft was literally stated. It became a meme that if you're going to stare at a character's behind for 40 odd hours, it should at least be a female one. Gamers have literally been the most accepting audience in total of female characters, and this accusation now that it's just misogyny and women hatred is the thinnest excuse ever put forward. Well, the thinnest excuse possibly to arguing that this is what people are upset about instead of the very obvious screenshots. This is a sign of just genuine desperation, frankly. The progressives have lost the plot on this. They understand that they cannot argue the point anymore. They cannot argue the point that this is somehow preferable to this. They can see it with their own eyes, and the only thing that's preventing them from finally realizing that this is a terrible idea is that it comes with a whole lot of really unfortunate admissions that they're also going to have to fess up to if they admit to this. Because if they look at this picture and do not claim that it looks exactly the same as this, they're going to have to realize that the active uglification of female characters in gaming that has been going on for 10 years plus was all their fault. And that this obviously, objectively, without question or doubt, makes for an inferior product. You gain nothing from uglifying video game characters, as can also be demonstrated quite beautifully by the fact that nobody ever argued that we should uglify the male characters in a single video game. I have yet to see a AAA release where you play as a fat, ugly, pockmarked man. This is simply just desperation at this point, and nothing but. They know they've lost the argument, they know they've lost the plot, they know this will be yet another enormous flop of a video game, and they're just trying to lie to the public now, which really isn't going to work anymore. The gaslighting simply isn't effective. There was a time when the progressives could literally claim the sky was blue and the corporations would join in lockstep around them. In fact, sites like Twitter would ban you for not agreeing. Those times are past, and this, the weakest, most pathetic of all of the progressives' playbooks, simply makes things worse now. It makes it even more blatant for the people watching that they are willfully ignorant and maliciously misinterpreting the facts and the reality of the matter. As again, gamers have never had a problem with female characters. They have desired them, preferred them, lauded them as entrepreneurs and groundbreaking characters. As again, it all boils down to the simple fact that in an interactive medium in particular, you only have the briefest of moment to get a positive impression of a character. And the easiest way to do that is to not make them look like trolls. A realization that the industry will be forced to make again, and if God of War Laufey will have to be one more sacrifice dragged up onto the altar and slaughtered, then all the better, particularly because of its author. We need to finally now arrive at the point where people like Alana Pierce are poison, where people like Anita Sarkeesian, as we've seen recently with the blowback against Slay the Spire, are poison. The mere mention of their name and association with their products must become not only detrimental, but outright lethal to their product. We are already just about there, and the condemnation will only grow more strident and more obvious for the corporations to see when this joins the long and proud ranks of objective sales failures. So, thank you, Alana Pierce, for furthering our lovely and noble endeavor. Genuinely, you haven't provided much in the way of service to video games, but this particular contribution might just end up being your most valuable yet. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching. I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.